From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy. The vitamins.
Energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, day one of game week prep, an old new weapon emerges. We discuss receivers as Corey sold on that unit finally. And we're breaking down everything the coordinator said after practice as well. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code Warchant BOGO, BOGO at the end of that Warchant. That buys you one, gets you one free, or multiple. So you can buy three, get three free. Maximize it. You can use it once. Get the best out of it. VitaminEnergy.com. Today's show also presented with limited commercial interruption. We are also presented by our great friends over at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Corey, the CP, CPTallybar.com, the website. 10 a.m. open Saturday, yeah?
Yep. Get ready, folks. Get ready. And then they're open till 2 a.m. So 10 a.m. to 2 a.m.
It's going to be a long celebration.
Well, that's just for Saturday, yeah. That will be a long celebration. You're right.
Yeah. What are we going to do after the game? I mean, it's a Saturday, so I guess, are you bringing your headset and everything out there with your wife? We're going to do shows over the computer at your hotel, my hotel?
Probably on Sunday. I'm not doing a show on Saturday night in Dublin. It's my last night in Dublin. I'm going to get my story done. I'm going to be excited, go hang out with some friends. I'm not going to be like, I got to go do a 45. Not that it's a have to. You know what I mean? I love doing this. This is what we get paid to.
Absolutely.
But you guys aren't going to listen to it till Monday anyway, so I'm going to go enjoy my Saturday night. And then we'll reconvene on Sunday somehow.
Yeah. Next week's going to be fun, everybody. All right, well, as you guys are listening to this, I should be over the Atlantic Ocean, hopefully still in a plane, not at the bottom of it, above it.
Yikes.
Thousands, tens of thousands of feet above it. So this will be a little bit of a condensed show because I'm doing this before I get on the jet airplane to head out there. So, Corey, this is observations from practice one, I guess you could say, of the 2024 season. It's full game week prep now as we exited practice yesterday. They'll practice today, but it's closed to the media. They'll practice on Wednesday in Tallahassee. You'll be there for it, Corey, yeah? Question mark?
No.
You won't. All right, yeah.
I won't. I've told you that before.
You're right. I'm sorry.
You keep making me look bad. Why isn't Corey going to be there?
No.
But they practice later than normal. They practice from 11 to 1. Yeah. I got a flight leaving Orlando at 5:30, so just couldn't do it.
Yeah. But we'll have coverage. Matt Lasser, Ben Spicer will be there, so interviews, footage, all that stuff will be there. They're going to leave after practice, the team, Wednesday evening, and then arrive in Dublin. They'll practice on Thursday and Friday. All right, so let's get to it. I don't know how much razzle-dazzle you've been able to see this preseason, Corey, but they did some razzle-dazzle, period 3, man. I liked it. Worked.
They did. Yeah, it's a cool play. They got a few of them. In their holster, which is always good to know. We'll see when they use it, when they whip that thing out. But, yeah, that was a couple of nice plays, I thought, during the course of the practice overall. But, yeah, again, for the main part, for the overall view of the practice, I thought the offense just carried on. The passing offense carried over what it did last week. I thought the receivers had another really good day. They won the majority of their reps in one-on-ones. They made some big plays in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. So, man, it's good to see Jaylen Brown, a nice catch in 11-on-11 for about 40 yards. Our man Darion had a big day.
Bolitnion.
That's right, Bolitnion.
Taking off.
And Portier, again, going up against Azarie a lot in one-on-ones. He won 2 out of the 3 reps. Azarie almost had an interception on the other one, but he went over Azarie and made a really nice catch in that period. And again, I asked Azarie about him after practice. He admitted Kentron was a little banged up to start the preseason camp. Well, he ain't banged up anymore. He looks full speed. And he's giving it to Azarie as much as he's getting. That's a really good matchup. And that's good to see. Kentron might be your guy. Darion, again, don't know who the best receivers will be on the team in November. I truly do believe that Kentron and Darion will play a big part in this offense early as you try to get Elijah Moore and LaWayne McCoy and those guys, maybe even B.J. Gibson, for crying out loud, the way he's been practicing. You try to get those guys acclimated. Darion and Kentron, maybe even Deuce, who had another big catch in 7-on-7s. Maybe those are the guys that I don't know. They're the bridge. They're the bridge to when the young guys are ready. Or they just have good seasons. Maybe Darion's about to, break through and finally have a productive season, and Kentron too. But they both looked good on Monday again, and they looked pretty good all week. So it's like, okay, are these anomalies? Is it a one-off or a two-off or a three-off, or is this like a trend? And it feels like it's a trend. It's like the last 3 or 4 practices, the receivers have held their own with the DBs.
Are the DBs playing poorly, or do you think the receivers are playing at a higher level?
Well, that's the issue, isn't it, Aslan? That's the rub. I do not know. I think the receivers are playing better. They're not getting dominated, man. Like you recalled it in Jacksonville, right? They got dominated for stretches, even in one-on-ones. Well, that seems like a long time ago. I wasn't there, but these practices don't look anything like those were described to me. In the way Ira wrote about them. Like, it just feels like these receivers took the challenge. Whenever Norvell maybe it was like last Monday or Tuesday, Norvell really laid into them, I thought, during the course of one-on-ones. And since then, they've looked like a different group. They've made as many plays as they haven't. And again, I don't know if the DBs are relaxed a little bit or whatever it may be. But the quarterbacks maybe are putting the ball in better spots. We don't know that too. Like the quarterbacks are getting used to how these receivers run their routes, so that always helps too. A little more familiarity. But overall, man, I think the receivers have raised their game a little bit. Again, this ain't the Fab Four. It's not Kelvin and Rashad, but I think it could be a pretty good group by the time the season's over. And I think these veterans might be real players this season.
Yeah, I was keeping my head on a swivel and looking at some defensive stuff going on or some inside run game, and then looking outside with the one-on-ones. I saw that absolute dime that brought Glenn through to Darion that was, I don't know, man, 45, 50 air yards.
Well, and remember, it was going into that wind.
Okay.
We'll talk about that wind in a second when we talk about the kicking. But, yes, that was into a wind, too. Great throw. But Darion got behind. It was Quindarius. And Quindarius is a good corner, man. He's a competitive kid, and I think there's a chance he could be playing on Sundays. Darion got by him. The ball was a really nice throw, but he didn't lead him because the wind. But he dropped it in there, and then Darion catches it as Quindarius is trying to rip it from him, and he showed strong hands and held on to it. Yeah, that was a great play all around, really.
I think did Ja'Kai have a big catch in one-on-ones?
He got Noles. He got Noles on a ball down the sideline for about 30. Let's see. B.J. Gibson beat Earl Little. I only know this because I just wrote about it literally before we started recording. B.J. Gibson got Earl Little for about 50.
Ooh.
But really good throw, but a great route too. Portier, like we talked about, I think it got his RA for 30 on one down the sideline, and then had one over the middle. The receivers and Amari Williams just like there's a chance Conrad Hussey's going to start, and I think Conrad Hussey might be a pretty darn good football player. Amari Williams sprinted by him like he wasn't there, and ended up catching about a 50-yard pass. So that was really impressive too.
Yeah, I thought Darion was like my offensive MVP for the day, and I thought
agreed.
Conrad had kind of a little bit of a choppy day out there. Clarify yourself for me on this, Corey. This is like the second time you've said this, and you said it on the Warchant wrap that we did after practice yesterday. But you said about being lighthearted and funny the way that you do. But you're like talking to the people at home watching us, like, oh, I know you don't want to hear these old guys. You want to hear somebody like younger stepping up. I've got no qualms if Darion Williamson wants to go out there and go nuts or Kentron Portier. Are you projecting like the how you used to be when you were younger as a fan, and you always want to, you kind of move on quick. Like, all right, we know what we've seen from this guy. Let's move on to the next guy. Because I know everybody wants Hakeem to be that guy, but I don't think anybody's going to be upset if like Kentron ends up going out there and having a great week 1, week 0, or Darion.
I think it's because the other guys, not Darion or Kentron or even Deuce to a lesser degree. The other guys are unknowns, and you don't know what their ceilings are. You don't know how excited. Are these guys going to be Randy Moss? Are they going to be Peter? Like, how good can these guys be? I feel like with veterans, especially guys in their 5th year, minds have been made up. And I'm talking about the people listening to this show, not my mind, but people listening to this show. If they're wanting to get tidbits and nuggets from a practice, that's not. I hate to use this term; it's kind of gross, but that's not the sexy. Those aren't the sexy names they want to hear about coming on and making big plays. They want to hear about the new guys: Jalen, Malik, Hakeem. I know he's a second-year guy. Elijah Moore, LaWayne McCoy. They want to hear those guys making the huge plays. Their minds are made up. I think that's how fandom works. It's also the reality, man. When you're starting your 5th year and you've never really done much at this level, people have given up on you. They don't think you can play. They don't want to hear about what you did in practice because they've essentially kind of been hearing about what you've been doing in practice for 4 years. For guys specifically like Darion and Kentron, go prove it to me on Saturday or don't talk to me about them. You know what I mean? I feel like I feel like that's the mindset that people have when it comes to these older names. And again, man, they were part of his first class. So these guys have been around forever. And so people have been reading practice reports about these two guys forever. And they haven't seen it really materialize in games much. Portier has some, and he had a nice half against Georgia, and I think he caught 4 or 5 touchdowns in 22, but he's never been a guy. He's never been one of the guys here. And so people are going to be like, yeah, man, I'll believe it when I see it. So that's why I always kind of couch it and qualify it. Like, I get it. It's Darion. Darion caught some more passes in practice. Great. When's he going to do it in a game? Yeah. I genuinely think he's about to start doing it in games. Same with Kentron.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys were hurt. And listen, I'm
yes,
not
correct,
the most.
Correct, yeah.
And I'm not the most. Listen, everybody's nicked up, man. You got to find a way to go out there and perform. I mean, I know it's not the pros, but it's close enough, man. And you've been here long enough, so I do understand that. But they might be, they might have legitimately been hampered by this. I think Darion had a serious injury as a senior in high school, so they felt like last year he was finally actually like truly properly good physically and then mentally from being in the system for so long, and then he gets, kind of banged up here and there. So, also in that terms, like I think the quarterbacks are the only ones in green jerseys on Monday. So like, feel good about that, everybody. They seem relatively
good to see.
healthy. Yeah.
Good to see, and I thought the quarterbacks were good. I thought DJ had a pretty good day overall, and I just thought in general the offense seemed to be rounding itself into season shape. Like it's not the preseason anymore. It's starting to look more and more like a Mike Norvell offense, and it should be. We're game week, like you said. But yeah, they seem relatively healthy. I feel like they're going to be, they're going to be mostly full strength on Saturday, knock on wood, and we'll see what it looks like. But, yeah, I think for the most part, especially on offense, I think they're going to have all the weapons they're supposed to have, I think. The weapons that you're counting on, and more importantly, the line of scrimmage, to me, all those guys should be playing. I think all of them are in position to play, whether it's, I won't even name names, but all the offensive linemen that you expect to be available should be available, and that's good to see.
One other thing on receivers I want to mention, Corey, is Deuce Spann the answer or Hakeem the answer when you talk about if a guy can perform at the level of his God-given physical traits that are top tier? Because looking at Darion on Monday, off the hoof, I'm like, maybe it's him, but then you're like, man, Deuce has got crazy speed, and the Hakeem's just got like a different kind of build. He's not 6'7", but man, he's just like 6'3", and it looks like he'd maybe play linebacker if they really needed to. Like if he had a Garnet jersey on at practice, you'd be like, oh, that's one of their best linebackers probably. But like seeing Darion out there and then remembering that Boston College game in 2022, like that 6'3", 6'4" kind of frame, 210 or so that he has. And then he moves when he's confident in his hands. Like it feels like if maybe he's not the first round pick guy of those guys that went off, but he's got to be one or two. I don't know if he's behind both those guys. Is he behind both those guys? If in terms of if they can put it all together, that might be the most complete or the most dynamic weapon they could have opposite Malik Benson.
Is Deuce
ahead of him? No, I think
Darion.
I'm saying it's Darion.
Oh, okay. Man, I don't know. I don't know what the top-end speed is necessarily, but, man, I know they liked him a lot. They liked him a lot when he got in here. He's always battled injuries. It's not as if he just can't play. They've had guys that have come in here that you're like, okay, that's just not going to be good enough for this level. I don't think they've ever thought that about Darion. He's just never been right. He's never had a full season of just being right. And as soon as it looked like he was about to take off, literally – I bring it up all the time, jokingly now, but he had like 100 yards and a quarter against Boston College, and then on his last catch, like rolled his ankle and basically missed the rest of the year.
Yep.
Like, so who knows what would have happened if he'd been able to play the rest of 2022? Maybe he was about to become that guy. And then last year, I feel like he was hurt again.
He was.
Yeah, so it's not like, again, it's not like these guys have proven they can't play. It's just they've had such a hard time staying on the field, and that's what gives me a little bit of hope about him. Where I do think it's like, okay, I'm not just going to say this guy's name again because he's a fifth-year senior and I have to. Like, we've never really gotten to see either one of these guys at full strength. We've never gotten to see either one of these guys consistently for long stretches during a season. And now we're out of time. Like, this is it. This is their last chance to do it. But if they can stay healthy with some physical gifts that they have, Portier's got some gifts too. Now, Azaria was talking about it. If you guys go watch that video, I asked Azaria about Portier specifically because that's who he's been matching up with a lot in one-on-ones. And he's like, man, he goes, I tell the DBs all the time, do not let Kentron get his hands on it. Because if he gets a hand on it, he's catching it. You can't let him get his hands on the ball because he's going to catch it because he's got monster hands, like big hands. So that's true. Portier's made a number of, like, those kind of catches. Like, he just gets one paw on it and he catches it. So it's cool to hear Azaria, who's going to be an NFL player, talking about Portier that way as having a trait like that. But as far as the absolute, like, athletic ability, yeah, I don't know. I think Darion's got some wiggle to him. He's a big enough kid, and he's got wiggle that maybe isn't normal for somebody that size, even though he doesn't have the same straight-ahead speed as Deuce. But, like, how many times has Darion Williamson been tackled in the last 5 years?
Right, yeah.
11? 9? Like, I don't know. He just hasn't been on the field enough, and they're not tackling during practice. So he might have been tackled maybe 15 to 20 times since high school. So how is he going to be breaking tackles, running past tacklers, like all that stuff that just comes from experience? Those are the question marks. I know in practice now he can get open and make catches. It's a different deal when you know after you catch it, they're coming to hurt you. Yeah. So how do you react to that? Can he run away from people? Can he make people miss? Can he run them over? Those are all things we don't quite know yet. Portier obviously has had a lot more experience. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but he's got a lot more than Darion because he's been able to stay a little bit healthier. But maybe these two guys are ready to – and so let's just forecast, Aslan, that Darion and Kentron end up being pretty good college receivers this year, like productive guys.
20, 30 catches or so, somewhere in there.
Yeah. But to live up to what this coaching staff thinks they can be. To then go along with Ja'Kai, who you know what he is and what he's going to be, and Malik, who I think is clearly your best one, well, all of a sudden, not only do you have 4 guys that you can count on and you kind of like as a quartet, they're all older than hell. And I think that's a benefit. Like they've all been in, Malik hasn't, but the other 3 have literally been in this offense for 5 years. If you trust that this guy that's calling plays and running the offense is really good at his job, if he's got guys that know what they're supposed to be doing every time the ball is snapped and know what advantage and what opportunity to take advantage of and where they're supposed to be, that could be a really, a high-functioning offense. If these guys can finally reach their potential and mainly if they can stay on the field.
Yeah,
but they looked good on Monday, didn't they?
Yeah, you try to get excited because it seemed like last week, like Deuce was the flavor of the week. It was like, oh man, he might be coming on, and then Monday, not a little bit of a quieter day out of him. So that's
But he had a 40. He did have a 40-yard catch in 7-on-7s.
Okay, right.
He did win one of his. He did win one of his reps in one-on-ones. So it wasn't like he was back to being the Deuce of 2022. Where you're like, come on, man, what's going on here? Like I think there's a chance. I mean, there's a chance all 3 of them can play significant snaps. And some people might hear that.
I think it's going to be it's going to be Johnny Holstaff at the other wide receiver too, which I don't think is going to be the end of the world. Like it'd be cool to hang your hat on that one guy, but I just think it's going to be for whatever, like you said on the show yesterday. I think it's going to be an audition every week. Whoever has the best week of practice is probably going to start opposite Malik Benson and at least have that opportunity to get in that first sequence, that first drive, make some plays, and then stay in the game. And if you can't, they'll bring the next guy off, and that may not be the end of the world. That you can just keep going and trying to find. It's not quarterback. You're not playing Kentucky Derby with your quarterback and trying to figure out something under center. It's your number 2 wide receiver. We'll figure it out as we go. I don't think it's the worst tack to have early in a season.
And I also think it's big that I really do have. I don't think this is coach speak. Speaking of, again, it's on Warchant YouTube right now if you want to go watch that.
Do you plug this show on the JCS as much as you plug Coach Speak on this show? My gosh, all the cross-promotion.
I do. You know what? I do. On Headlines, I talk about things that you and I said on Wake Up all the time.
Right.
I do.
Appreciate it.
But what I was going to say is that Jaylen Brown, again, is a guy that I think maybe, as we talked about, when we saw him at the top of the depth chart, might have raised some eyebrows a little bit, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But he has been coming along. Yeah. And I thought, again, on Monday, he had another good day. And it's like, okay, he's starting to get more and more comfortable. He's starting to look more and more comfortable. And, again, that is a weapon. You know, if you're starting wide receiver trio is what it says it's going to be on the depth chart, which is Jaylen Brown, Ja'Kai Douglas, Malik Benson. Well, that's a lot of speed. Jaylen Brown can fly. He's very, very fast and fluid. He's slight, but he's very fast and fluid. If he can start playing at that, like he's been playing the last 3 or 4 days, if he's starting to come on and be the guy that was the top 50 recruit in the country and one of the top 5 or 7 wide receivers in the country coming out of high school just 2 years ago, man, all right, that's a weapon that I would say 2 weeks ago I wasn't counting on at all. And now as he's progressed, because it's practice and you get better the more you do it, he's starting to look like a guy that could be a real weapon for them this year. And then it's days like Monday, Asla, where I'm like, you know what? I kind of talked myself into, this receiving core might be pretty doggone good.
All right, there we go. Look at that.
But then the flip side, because I'm me, is, man, what's going on with the secondary? Why are they giving up these plays? Well, I thought this was a lockdown secondary. What's going on here? So again, that's the rub of watching a team practice against itself. You're never fully happy.
After practice yesterday, we were able to get the coordinators. Again, practice closed today, tomorrow, tomorrow, Wednesday, it'll be open. Norvell, DJ Uiagalelei will speak to the media. Atkins, a couple things. He did mention, again, like in terms of the explosiveness that Norvell mentioned on Sunday, he said that the wide receivers have been putting up the best numbers GPS-wise in terms of speed. So he's not surprised because that is a very fast unit, obviously. He said maybe some of the things that we're seeing here of late could be attributed just to the grind of camp and them having some lighter days here, and maybe they get some fresher legs, so that maybe that's why the receivers are emerging. When it comes to DJ, he's got a lot of confidence in DJ. He says that maybe some of the reason that we've seen DJ improve over the last week or so, Corey, or maybe even like last week and a half, is that they did, again, Mike said it, Tony Tokar said they really went heavy on install. Like I think Atkins said, 8 out of the first 9 days were install. So now that things have kind of settled and they're like, all right, this is what we're going to run. This is what we feel comfortable doing. There's a little bit more of that continuity and familiarity. So that's some of the reasons why the offense might be clicking a little bit better. I think he also got asked about his plans in Dublin. He will be there, but he can't coach again on the actual game.
Yeah, Matt said that Warchant Matt said that asked him about where he's actually going to watch the game from, and he said he might go to a pub. He goes, yeah, he doesn't know yet. He might go to a pub. He goes, but I'll get to be a fan. And then he said, go Noles.
Nice.
So I doubt he'll be at a pub. He needs to be up in a box somewhere. Nobody's be looking in those boxes in a Viva Stadium. Go get in there. I want live communication to the sidelines, Alex. And I say that. Look, guys, I'm not all about like no consequences if you break the rules. But this is such a dumb rule that he broke.
Yeah.
That everybody breaks now. It's not even against the rules anymore, and he's still having to sit out the first 3 games. Your offensive coordinator for breaking a rule that is no longer a rule. And nobody kind of even knew what the rules were back then, because it was so brand new. So anyway, that's why I'm being also willy-nilly, and I want him to be able to still try to coach if he can.
Why don't we do a watch-along with him?
That would be something. What do you think he's like? You think he does like a let's go? I don't foresee him ever being one of those guys that gets excited or that kind of guy. I don't think he's that guy.
He'll be all business. He'll be like, Darius, hands. All right, good.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Like that. So we worked on that. We worked on that Tuesday. He knows that when you make the inside move first, you got to get your. He would go total technical, like football junkie nerd on all of it.
Right.
So maybe we'll bump into him when we're out there and we can get a drink or two and be like, hey, maybe I don't have to be at the game. You and Ira need to be at the game. I can show up afterwards and we can do the wrap and everything. So maybe I can find out where his hotel room is and bum rush him and be like, we're doing it, coach. We're doing the thing.
No, that would be something. That would be something.
We spoke to Adam Fuller after practice as well. likes the depth they have there, Corey.
I did mean to say I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Atkins
ahead.
did say he was asked about, like I talked about, he's got such an old offensive line that they can kind of coach themselves. And he goes, yeah, we talk about that all the time, like the ownership in the room. And he's also like, Maurice has been here longer than I've been here. So if he can't,
Darius
if
too.
he can't help coach, if those guys can't help coach themselves, then we got then nobody can. So he's basically saying, like, yeah, but most of these linemen have played enough college football that it's not ideal, but it's not a backbreaker that their offensive line coach / OC won't be on the sideline with them.
3 games. 3 games. Can't believe it. Adam Fuller's going to be on the sideline. That defense, thing is going to carry the day, despite the fact that the secondary has maybe not looked as crisp as they did earlier on the season. I guess before we get to we're going to do some of this later in the week when we make some kind of season predictions. What would be more surprising to you at this point after watching all these practices? If the secondary is a little bit more leaky than we've been leading people on to believe, or if the run defense isn't as stout as we've seen over the course of those 21 practices that we've now seen, Corey?
Yeah, I would say the run defense, just because I wouldn't classify it as stout this preseason. Yeah. But a lot of that has to do with who they're going up against. They should be able to control most of the lines of scrimmage they face. But Florida State does have that, like we talked about, a very big, experienced, old offensive line that they're going against that knows all the tricks. And they have been able to run the ball against this defense. And what I worry about maybe when it comes to that is just you're going to be playing some inexperienced linebackers. Whether they're, Cam Riley has been in college football forever, but he's new to this defense. And then Nicholson and Cryer are going to play. And they've never played meaningful snaps because the Georgia game doesn't count. So the run defense, the defensive lineman might do a pretty good job of what they're supposed to do. Can those linebackers fill the right gaps? Can they communicate and be where they're supposed to be to limit these runs? That's what I think I have a bigger worry about that, especially early on with these 2 mobile quarterbacks they're seeing to start the season.
You asked them about depth, real depth. I shouldn't say real depth, but depth in terms of what they plan on being able to use maybe here week 0, and then the amount of talent they have that allows them to have a very talented, scout team, which, by the way, Trevor Jackson, you mentioned B.J. Gibson earlier in the show too. And Trevor Jackson gave it to the first team offense a few times running with the scouts on offense, but we're not panicking by any stretch. But what were your takeaways from Adam talking about the numbers they have on defense and where he thinks they're at right now and maybe where they can be?
Yeah, I think he said 21 maybe is what they played last year, what they felt comfortable playing. They're too deep as the too deep, but, a lot of guys play different positions. And anyway, so I think that he said, I asked him about 20 to 25. Where is that number of guys that they feel comfortable playing or he foresees playing? And I thought he said 20, like right at 20. Oh. And, yeah, that makes sense. Like, we think they're going to play at least 8 defensive linemen, but probably close to 10, maybe 10. I think they're going to play 4 linebackers, so that gets you to 14. And then I think they're going to play 6 DBs, maybe 7. I think Quindarius will rotate in some. I think Little and Noles will both be on the field in certain sets. So I think you're looking at 21, 22 guys that they play. And out of those 20 to 22, I feel like they like almost all of them. Again, I worry a little bit about linebacker just because of the game inexperience that you're going to have and inexperience within the defense. Lundy's a veteran, but the other guys haven't really played Florida State in a real Florida State football game at all. That's about it. And then safety. What are you going to do with safety? But I say this because you were mentioning Trevor Jackson and what he did. I meant to bring this guy up. Maybe I did already in the show. B.J. Gibson. So he's not a guy we talk about a lot. He has been, I don't want to say relegated, but I will. He's been relegated to scout team. So, but the reason I bring this up is because I want to paint this picture every week or so to just remind people. When they're playing with the scout team, they're wearing the jersey number of whoever they're pretending to be for the Georgia Tech offense. So B.J. Gibson is pretending to be – he wears his number – his number isn't 2, but for the scout team, that's who he's wearing. Just like I don't know what Trevor Jackson's real number is, but he's wearing Haynes King number for the scout team purposes to help the Florida State defense realize, okay, B.J.'s playing this guy, blah, blah, blah. So Last week, I remember there were 2 or 3 plays on the first day I was out there where I'm like, who is number 2? Who's scout team number 2? Because that was a really nice play. And then I realized, finally I realized that was B.J. Gibson. And then he continued to make plays. And then on Monday, in one-on-ones, he had like a 50-yard catch. And then I saw 2 long touchdown catches in scout team work.
Yeah.
Working with the scout team offense. The last one was he made an incredible catch. Back of the end zone, kind of over his shoulder, like from 50 yards away from Trevor Jackson. I do think in a real game, Trevor Jackson got swallowed by the pocket, and that would have been a sack. And actually, Cypress had really good coverage. It was just thrown almost out of the end zone, and Gibson makes a really great catch where people were stunned, like, whoa. And he had made another play that me and you saw together earlier in scout team work. And the point being, Norvell talked about this on Monday,
Sunday.
or maybe Sunday,
Yeah.
whatever it was. Like, man, these scout team guys can play. Like, when they're mad about it. This might have been last week, but they can give us real looks. And they don't want to be on scout team for long. And he talked about how some guys start the season on scout team and by the middle of the year are in the rotation and are playing. I wouldn't be stunned if B.J. Gibson might be that guy because he has stood out repeatedly. He's not the guy. He's not the freshman we talk about. We don't sing his praises like we do McCoy and Elijah Moore. But he has a natural ability to catch the ball, especially over his shoulder, which I think goes back to his baseball career. He's just so natural at catching the ball over his shoulder, running underneath the ball like an outfielder. You can tell. You can tell he does it. I say that he might be a shortstop. He might be a catcher. I feel like he's an outfielder because of the speed, but that's a stereotype. Not all wide receivers are outfielders, but he is just so natural catching the football, and he's got good enough speed, and he's a good enough athlete, clearly, because he's a high-level athlete in 2 different sports, that I think there's a chance he could be he's making a name for himself on scout team, which he might end up being a part of the real team come Saturdays. I've just been very, very impressed with him, and I wanted to give him a shout-out because he really stood out on Monday and has kind of been standing out all the last week anyway.
Adam Fuller mentioned him too.
Unsolicited.
Yeah, so great minds.
Yeah,
great minds.
Because again, that's what we're talking about. We talk. B.J. Gibson's going to. I assume it'll be here. I hope it's here. He's going to be I think he's going to be a high level Division I receiver. He might already be that guy. He's certainly close. He looks the part in scout team. That's a great look. Mm-hmm. Trevor Jackson is a great representation of what Haynes King is like. He can really move, and he's not a 5th string or 6th string type walk-on quarterback that can't make throws. If you give him time, he can make the throws. So the point being, like we talked about a few shows ago, this scout team really does help, you think, give both of these sides of the ball a real look. Because they've got dudes on this scout team that I think will not only be playing on Saturdays very soon, but a few of them might be playing on Sundays as well. And that's who you're going up against every day to try to get better.
By the way, last year, 21 players played 200 or more snaps on defense.
That seems like a lot.
So that must be the barometer. And then Dennis Briggs played 194. So, I mean, he was just outside that cusp. But
so they played 22, essentially. They had 22 guys, yeah.
Did ask Adam Fuller about Marvin Jones Jr. All we really got was that, he's at full speed now. Didn't give me a lot more, but probably should have asked a better question. Like, how disruptive do you think he will be? But so anybody that was concerned about Marvin Jones Jr., back to full speed, that's a good thing. Give a shout-out to the special teams before we go, Corey. Big legs. Big legs.
Yeah, so I want you to picture it if you guys have ever seen the practice field or where the IPF is if you've been by Doak. So during special teams portion of practice, which as we've admitted before is the most boring part of practice typically, I'm sitting on the perch, we all are, watching from the baseball stadium, watching it. I'm kind of looking at my phone, catching up on some correspondence because it's special teams work. But I do watch, number one, they do a punting drill where our man Mac Chimento punts one legitimately 65 yards in the air. He's punting from the 30, he's punting from the 35, and they were catching it at the 10, right? Whatever that is. It was a 65-yard punt. And I'm like, holy cow, and that's the backup. And then Mastromato punts one 70 yards in the air from the 25, it's caught at the 5. And it might have been, it might have gone into the end zone. Like it was kind of an overthrower catch there by Malik Benson just to catch it. Unbelievable legs those two guys have. And I also want to point out there was a bit of a wind.
A little bit.
There was a bit of a wind. I'm not going to say that there wasn't, but there was a wind going from the stadium to the IPF, that direction. I'm horrible with directions, so I don't know. Southwest, the people that
north.
live, the people that,
north.
yeah, is that what it is? The people are like, yeah, go down, and then you're going to turn north towards. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not Lewis and Clark, man. I don't know what that even means. Tell me right or left. But anyway, so about 5 minutes later, they're doing kickoffs. And Jake Weinberg, the freshman with the huge leg, who's the backup because he's not as consistent as your All-American candidate, Fitzgerald, who's had a very good camp and had a good day, all that. He's kicking a kickoff from the 35-yard line towards the IPF. He kicks it halfway. It lands halfway up the IPF. It hits off the building halfway up. So I want you guys to do the math because the IPF is 85 yards away from where he's kicking off from. He kicked it off through the end zone, obviously, so that's 75 yards. It's 65 yards to get to the goal line. It's 75 yards to get to the back of the end zone. It's another 10 yards to the IPF. He hit it midway up the IPF. So to me, Aslan, I feel like that means that ball was going to travel 100 yards in the air.
Listen, this doesn't sound real at all. It's
the craziest thing I've ever seen.
I wouldn't believe, not that Corey lies, but I almost didn't want to believe Corey, but then Corey asked Norvell after practice about it, and Norvell was like, yep, pretty cool.
Yeah,
right?
He's like, I was really excited about that, or something. He said something like that. It was unbelievable. Like if you folks are old enough to remember that Michael Vick commercial where he throws the ball, the Powerade commercial, and it ends up going out of the stadium or whatever he ends up doing, that's what it looked like. I literally said, oh my God, when he kicked it, not knowing that it was going to, it hit halfway up the IPF. I hope there's got to be some IPF footage of that somewhere that they filmed it. I just want people to believe it because I really do think the physics of it, and again, he had a wind coming from the back, so he got some help from the wind, but not 20 yards help. Just unbelievable to see a guy kick a ball that might have legitimately traveled 100 yards in the air. Now, of course, the first time he gets out there and he kicks a ball that lands at the 2, people are going to call me a liar. All I'm saying is I saw it with my own eyes. He kicked a ball halfway off the IPF, halfway up it, from 85 yards away. Just unbelievable.
Anything else to add before I say goodbye for us, Corey?
No, I want you to have a great flight.
All right, thank you. I want you to have a great flight. I'm really excited for you, Corey. Like, for some reason, when I was packing, I'm like, this is going to be so fun for Corey. And I know you're nervous about everything, but it's going to work out just fine. But, like, when you wake up and, like, you look at Google Maps and you realize, like, holy freaking crap, I am on the whole other side of the world practically right now. And it's going to be cool, man, to live and see all the greatness in this big blue ball that we're spinning on.
That's right, buddy. I hope it unlocks something in me, and I can go start, gallivanting around the world again.
I know that'd be cool. If we did vacations regularly on this show. That'd be cool if I wasn't the only guy trying to get out of town.
That would be awesome. And also, I did talk to Adam Fuller. I asked him if he. I was asking him if he had a passport before this, but I think it came out. Does he have a passport? And he goes, yeah, no, I'm going to get it right now. But he was joking.
Right.
He's like, yeah, I have a passport. He goes, and I go, but did you get it for this? Because I asked him if he'd ever been to Ireland. He said no. And like, what? No. And what about Europe? No. And I was like, well, did you even have a passport? And he joked about he's going to get it right now. But then he said, no. He goes, I got my passport when I was working at Marshall because we were always in contention to go to like the Bahamas Bowl.
Oh, nice.
So we needed a passport in case we went to the Bahamas Bowl. And I'm like, well, that's funny. That's a college football coach answer for you.
There you go.
So Adam Fuller's getting to go to Ireland for the first time as well. And apparently Malik Benson's looking forward to eating McDonald's over there.
Awesome.
To see how different it is than it is in the States.
Love it, Malik. The McBenson. It'll be delicious. Enjoy it.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, that's a wrap for us, but shows coming out throughout the rest of the week, so subscribe, especially if you're a Warchant subscriber and you listen to this show on the Tribal Council post. They might not be pinned on the forum in a timely fashion, so highly recommend subscribing to the podcast. That way it drops right into your phone or mobile device, and you don't have to worry about going to find it. Also, a reminder, Friday night, Dublin, Ireland. We'll be there. Big meet and greet. All the Warchant staff that will be in Dublin will be on hand. The Old Storehouse, Temple Bar District, 6 to 9 o'clock Friday night. Live shows in Dublin starting today at the Old Storehouse with Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang. 1 to 3 o'clock Eastern time. They're saying on their schedule, jet lag be damned. So we've got you covered. So, yeah, no headlines, but a live JCS today and tomorrow and Thursday. So it's here, Corey. Game week. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see you in another country, big guy.
It's going to be exciting, Aslan. I cannot wait as well. We're just gonna have a wonderful time. Gonna have a wonderful time.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.